Hi everyone, and welcome to Stand With Us Connect. My name is Tamir Oren, and I am the Stand With Us Israel Associate Director. Thank you so much for joining us from around the world. It's truly exciting to connect with you today. Today is a special and moving webinar to me in person for two reasons. The first, today is Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day. And the second is that I have a unique opportunity to have a personal conversation with my hero who survived the Holocaust, my grandfather, Arie Shilansky. Hi, Arie, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great, really excited. I want to treat this conversation as if no one else is listening. Not every day we get to speak like this about this topic. So I'm going to call you Saba, if you don't mind. For those who are watching, Saba in Hebrew means grandfather. So, Saba, this conversation today is even more significant. I think it's been more than a month and a half since we met in person because of coronavirus. So I guess this is also the time to say that I miss you and I hope you stay healthy and that we get together soon. If I want to be honest with those who are watching us today, I have to say that it's not always easy growing up to a family that lived through the Holocaust. My personal experiences as a child were of silence. No one really asked questions. No one knew what to ask, what to say, if at all. As the time went by, more details were revealed about my family, and my grandfather started to share his story. And as he did, the tears started to shed, and we got to know my family better, and I got to know you, Saba, and rediscover you and my whole family. In hindsight, I want to tell you now in person that I guess your story, your personal experience navigated who I am today and placed me where I'm sitting at the moment as the Associate Director of Stand With Us, educating about Israel and fighting anti-Semitism around the world. So thank you so much. I also want to thank my colleagues at Stand With Us for facilitating this conversation, which might not be easy for me on a personal level, but it will definitely be a memory that will last for a lifetime. And also one last thank you to my grandmother, Ruthie, who's sitting next to Arie as his technical assistant. So thank you, Ruthie.
Thank you.
And Saba, with your permission, I would like to introduce you to our viewers in a few sentences. So Arie was born in Šiauliai, Lithuania. He is 92 years old. The war caught up with Arie when he was 12. Arie had two parents and three siblings, and he was the youngest in the family. When Arie was 12, the German army entered his village, and a day later hung up papers and notifications saying, "We are here." Arie went into the ghetto in his hometown, then was transported to Stutthof concentration camp in Germany, then to the Dachau concentration camp, also in Germany, finally being liberated by the Americans during the Death March. Arie went through a long journey until he eventually reached Israel, fought in the newly established Israel Defense Forces, and married his wife, my grandmother, Ruthie. So Arie, I would like to start this conversation with a more general question about what happened before the Holocaust. Can you tell me a little bit about your family, where you were, and what was the atmosphere before all hell broke loose?
As you mentioned, I was born and raised in Lithuania in a Jewish family. I went to school, everything was quite well, and everything until the Barbarossa, the German broke into Lithuania and started with the atrocities, as you probably know, and as we will probably proceed and mention all the beginning of the atrocities in Šiauliai in Lithuania.
Can you tell us more about your family, Arie, your brothers and sisters, where you lived, and what was the atmosphere? Were you afraid of the Germans? How did it look back then?
To answer the question about my family, my mother, I had a mother, my dad passed away earlier. My mother, I had two sisters and a brother. And I was the youngest, as you mentioned that. And I think we should begin with the story, with my story, how it began and how it developed later and so on.
So can you start with your story? What happened when the Germans entered Lithuania? What happened to your family? And how did you find yourself in the ghetto?
When the Germans entered in our town Shaulai, they immediately put on warning signs and posters on the walls that Jews must wear a Star of David. And that's why I'm wearing the Star of David. Jews must prepare to enter the ghetto in Shaulai, and Jews are under the Nuremberg law. And just a few words about the Nuremberg law. Nuremberg is the law about the races, and what shortly says Jews have lost all their citizen rights, property. Jews are not allowed to walk on the pavement and just on the street. And of course, wearing a Magen David, a yellow star. And in Lithuanian, they insisted that we wear 2 stars, one in the back, in order for people to identify for the purpose of not escaping or something like that. And shortly, they announced that the committee that they have established will visit the homes of the Jews and give them a yellow shine called in German, which means a permit to enter the ghetto. And just in a few days, they made people enter the ghetto, and the ghetto was nearly full. And fortunately, my older sister had senses, and she met someone who, in the last moment, came in and made all the arrangements and the permit to enter the ghetto. And that's when we started to walk towards the ghetto. It was just a few kilometers. And just after that, it all began. They had issued a warning that whoever did not manage to get into the ghetto should go to the nearby synagogue, and from them they will be transported to another town called Jager, to a next ghetto. But in fact, what happened is they took everyone who came over there into the synagogue and put them to a place in the nearby forest in Kush, and they were executed. In other words, we were saved, the first time we were saved now by the fact that we had the sign and we are in the ghetto now. The ghetto was created by the Germans because they needed labor. There were 2 labor places. One was a big airport, important for them. The other one was a big factory called the Frankel's Leather Factory. And he was near the ghetto area. And here we're now in ghetto with all the difficulties. But in the meantime, before the ghetto, the atrocities already began. With the Lithuanian collaborators, they have captured people in the streets. They have captured the rabbis, cut their beards, and a few prominent lawyers, put them to the red prison, and they were executed in just a day or 2.
So I want to ask you, Saba, a question, if I may, about Lithuanian collaborators, because I'm hearing a lot on the news about different rules in Lithuania about their role in the Holocaust. And I remember when we visited your hometown last year, that you said that they were barely no Nazis back then in Lithuania, and most of them were collaborators, Lithuanians. Is that correct?
Yes, they were collaborating. Later on, I want to explain that the rest of the Lithuanian Jewry, other than the 3 ghettos that were in them, were executed mainly by the Lithuanians with very little German supervision.
Okay, so I want to ask you now, first of all, you said that you were saved for the first time by your sister, and I know that it wasn't the last time because you've shared these stories with me, so maybe we can get to that later. I'm interested now to know, basically, how was your life in the ghetto? What did you eat? How did you sleep? Did you have a room or a house? How did it look like?
With this yellow permit, we were entitled to 150 grams, I think, in the beginning, of bread per person, and a few other products. Very shortly, a big hunger situation existed in the ghetto. And only people that went out for work every day, some people tried to sell something to the local Lithuanians or get some a slice of bread or a potato or something and smuggle into the ghetto. Smuggling in food to the ghetto on the way back from work was strictly prohibited and punishable. But people used to take a risk and try to smuggle in something into the clothes. Where I'll just say that in Lithuania, in Šiauliai, before entering the ghetto, we lived in Vilniaus Gatvė, a very prominent quarter in Šiauliai. But in the ghetto, we somehow, by entering late, we got very poor hut where we all lived over there, our family, on one cousin who was living with us. So the life was difficult, but it was still life, we were still alive. But the rest of the Lithuanian Jewry did not survive. At that time, when we entered the Jewry, the statistics says that nearly 80% of the whole Lithuanian Jewry were already dead, already executed, as I mentioned, by mainly Lithuanian with maybe one soldiers with rifles. I do not know the exact details. It's all recorded in books and history books, etc.
Okay, when people talk about the ghetto and about your house, I just want to say that last year we visited your house with the whole family, and we walked to the area where the ghetto was at, and it's a matter of 100 meters from your house to the ghetto, so it's very close to one another. You knew that area, and to think that these atrocities happened around the ghetto is just, for me, it's almost insane to think about that. I wanna ask you specifically about an incident that I remember from a very young age, something that you shared with me that I think other people need to know. And if I think about the Holocaust in the difficult situation you were at when you were 12, this is what I think of. So do you mind sharing with us what the Kinderaktia was when you were in the ghetto?
I want to mention before the Kinderaktia that the ghetto was surrounded by a fence with barbed wire and had a main gate guarded by Lithuanian police and another smaller gate close to, which led to the big factory, Frankel's factory. So anyway, the ghetto was well guarded around, and anyway, and well, let's say it was very difficult, but we still existed. Now we're coming to the Kinderaktie. One day after most of the people went out for work, all of a sudden, dozens or maybe 20, 30 lorries, I don't quote me, I'm not, whether it's not the right number, and with SS soldiers, among them many Ukrainians who with German uniforms, SS uniforms, and they surrounded that, and this was already suspicious. Everybody got a shock, and just around 9 or something, they broke into the ghetto, and the main officer first told the Jewish and the elderly leadership that we came here to take the children because the ghetto and the ghetto situation is not a place for children and elderly. So in other words, they all immediately, they started to go and search for children. The children already were always already ready to hide in various places. So the SS, the Ukrainian and German SS, got into every house and every place, every cupboard, looking for people or children that hide it over there, and found them and brought them to the gate and put them into the lorries, and lorry by lorry disappeared. And of course, the officer said he's bringing them to a better place, but in fact, later on, or now we know, he brought the lorries were taken to the place, to the, and you know that you've seen the place to Kush forest over there, and executed. And we visited the mass graves of the children of the Kinderaktie. What happened to me is, when this all began, my older sister Hannah was there, and she heard a rumor that the Jewish elderly gave instruction to the Jewish police to allow people who want to go in through the gate of Frankel's fabric, of the factory, and let them go in. So some people who've heard the rumor tried to move to the gate. So did I and my mother. We were running to the gate, and we went through the gate, came into the factory, and the Jewish masters or the managers of this department put us into a store, a leather store, and put iron cabots on the door, in other words, to hide, to disguise the door. And I was the oldest boy, the oldest, they call it child or youngster, and they told me, listen, you're here the oldest, there are a few more children, I don't remember the number of children, you ensure that they will be completely silent, because you're endangering your lives and their lives. And so I had to keep them, tell them stories, and somehow to make them cooperate with the requirement that they have to be quiet, not cry, and so on. And we've been there in this store until 5 o'clock. It came
So Saba, I just want to understand the situation here. we had a kinder action, meaning that all the kids were taken out in trucks, eventually murdered, and you survived, you escaped for the second time. Your sister saved your life, and you were in this factory. And you were 12 years old, and you had to take care of the younger kids, and they had, basically, they couldn't say a word because the Nazis were around. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That is correct.
So I just have to say, it amazes me every single time to hear you and your responsibility at an age of 12, saving other people's lives. It's an inspiration to me. I really have to be honest. I want to move on to the concentration camps. You've moved to Stutthof in Germany and then to Dachau. Do you mind sharing with us what a concentration camp looks like and what happened to you up until the moment that you had to march the death march before your liberation?
In the beginning of 1944, the German situation on the front, on the Eastern Front, was not too good. And the Russians, and they were in complete chaos on the front. The Russians had some victories. We already started to see Russian bombers or here bombings in the surroundings, and the Germans, the rumors were at that time, but later on we verified that there were orders from Hitler, from Himmler, that you were not, the Germans should not leave living people in camps, concentration camps and ghettos, and they should be evacuated soon. So the orders were, we all have to report near the gate with very little bag, families or whoever still remained over there. And we were led to the train station. Over there, an echelon wagons, normally the cargo wagons or wagons for to transport animals or something, already stood there, and they made us go into the wagons, about 70 people into a wagon with a bucket of water and another bucket for toilets or something like that. And they gave us food. Well, I just want to describe that. If I remember well, one loaf of bread for 5 people and some other minor things. And this should be the food for the whole journey. And this is how it was. It was not enough space for everybody to lay down, but some were sitting, some were half in all kinds of positions. And this is how the journey began. And we were traveling with a train for
can I just say something? We went on March of the Living to Poland a few years ago, you and I remember that when we walked to Auschwitz, immediately you saw one of these train wagons and you shouted, "This is the train wagon, this is the train wagon."
This is the red wagon. Yeah.
So
one wagon like that is on display in Yad Vashem.
So I just want to say that that this wagon was supposed to be for cows, and seeing you explaining this, how 70 or more people entered with a bucket of water, is just heartbreaking and unimaginable. So that's something I just wanted to state as someone who was there and saw the wagon you were talking about. But yeah, keep on going. You were talking about the concentration camp and getting there.
I want to describe the arrival of finally, after 2 or 3 days, we came to a place, concentration camp called Stutthof. And like all the concentration camps, the train goes into, you saw that in Auschwitz, it goes into the concentration camp on the ramp. When we came through into the small window, something, we saw something, there are a lot of SS people, rows of SS ready with black uniforms and helms, with sticks in the hand. Some of them had dogs, with dogs waiting for us, for the doors to be opened. When the doors were opened, they started immediately to shout, out, out, raus, raus, with the sticks, go, 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 go. Some people even jumped, fell. It was complete chaos getting off that. And stay in row and start to march, 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 march. About 50 meters, maybe, or 70 meters from there, were one selector, and he selected women on the right, men on the left, and so on. And women were children, as I said. I went with my brother and some other people, so we were going in this by groups, and about another maybe 100 meters was another selector, and the other selector was sitting there. It's like type of Mendele stories. He was sitting there and they said, also, you go left. In other words, people who will be sent for labor left. And he took out people that he thought they are too young or children. And I was separated from my brother because as I was, as a child, young. In 2 minutes, or even saying 1 minute, I was left alone. A lot of people.
Were you separated from your brother and your mother?
No, my mother was with women, with the 2 sisters on that side, on the first selection. I was on this. This was on the second selection, further on, where they.
So I just want to ask: was you were separated from your mother when you stepped out of the wagon? Was that the last time you saw her?
That when we stopped up of the wagon, we were forced. Everybody was supposed to move on forward. So as we move on, over on the way, we were selectors.
Okay, so, was that the last time you saw your mother, or did you see her after?
From that point, I saw that after the liberation, and the 2 sisters. But anyway, here we go, and again, couples and Germans and with sticks and beating and run. We were led to a big place. They called this as a shower place. Where people were shaved and were forced to undress. Quickly undress. You'll find it later, and so on. We went into this shower place, and we've been shaved, and after that, minutes or something like that, we were let out to another door, to another exit. And you never saw your clothes anymore, you never saw anything. And again, couples and all kinds of functionaries, quickly, and then I was left already with a group of children. So the group of children was put aside, and the people who were were ready to go to for work were put to, as I said, to the left-hand side. So from that moment, I did not see anymore my brother and my sisters. For some people, was seeing their loved ones for the last time. There was where complete lives were completely destroyed, families was destroyed, and so on and so on. May I say a word about the Stutthof concentration camp?
Yes, say you can talk about that, and then I want to talk. You know what? Before that, it's such an amazing opportunity for us to have this conversation, and I just want to say that we have thousands of people watching us now, thousands. I have a few names here: Desi Desmond sending love from Poland, Abigail tuning in from Japan, June Clapp from the UK, Christopher from Germany. We have people from Argentina, Czech Republic. Everyone are saying thank you, so this is really moving. You can continue to talk about the camp, and then we can talk about the liberation and open it for questions. Many people are interested in your story.
Can I explain the situation in Stutthof first?
Sure, of course.
The camp was, again, with fences, barbed wire, with high tension electricity. And there are guards in every, I think, 50 meters or something. It was a guard on a tower sitting and watching. But the specific point about the electric power, the electric fence is, but it had a zoom, a noise, was very disturbing. So if somebody wanted to come near the fence, immediately felt the situation, the high tension of the fence. So now we are in Stutthof. Should I explain?
So Arie, Saba, I actually want to move now to hear about your liberation. You've marched the Death March, which is really significant, and you were liberated. So if you can talk about that moment that you were liberated, what did you feel? And I know you've prepared something to show everyone, something that I only saw a couple of years ago, and you've hidden it from the world. So if you want to share your story of liberation, that will be great.
Okay. So we'll go, right. The next camp was Dachau, as you know, and we've been there, and there's a lot of things to talk about this camp. But if you want to talk about the liberation, in April, beginning of April, the American bombers were already in the air. We already had bombings all around. And for some reason, they did not bomb the camps, but all the surroundings were bombed. And by the American planes. And the Germans, as the order not to leave living people, ordered us to all concentrate in the Dachau Centrale, in the central camp, and getting ready to be marched out of Dachau towards an unknown place. The Germans never said where they are moving. So here, they put us in rows by 5 this time. And prepared us. Every 5 people got a can of some sort of canned food, and 5 people got a loaf of bread, and this is how the way we walked. And there was a big tanker of water, but that they were going around and giving water, let's say, cups of water, whoever had a cup, And that was our food. And now we started the march. We started the march, and there were soldiers with rifles who went on the side of the columns. And there was also one tricycle, one with a German, one with a tricycle sitting in his compartment of the tricycle with a gun, I think it was a machine gun, who accompanied our the whole lot. Anyway, I think I'm a little let's say excited or something. And this is how we used to how this echelon, how this tour, this march was run. How this is the situation, and it was difficult. And
Saba, I remember that you said that you met your brother during that march. Again, you reunited. Is that right?
Could you repeat that, please?
Yes, I remember that you said in the past that you met your brother during the death march. You reunited with him. Is that correct?
When I was brought in from the camp where I was by myself, they have been brought into Landsberg, Lager 1, number 1 satellite of Dachau. And he was there. So I met my brother. Now I'm already not by myself. I'm already with my brother. And with someone who later on became my brother-in-law, Zalman Boyde. And I don't know exactly the number of days we walked like that. And for sleepover at night, they used to bring us into a forest, and we are surrounded by SS all around. And this is how we walked day by day. And I think because the Germans army retreated also on the same roads, and because the bombers were bombing, the Germans decided to keep us some days or half a day in the forest before they started the march. We had the impression that they themselves don't know where we are going, and they let it due to the situation where the front became closer. They went to the other side or something. We had the impression that it's not, they don't know where, it's not that good, not organized, but it's per situation.
So I just want to ask here, you're saying that it was chaotic, it was chaos, and you were hearing bombings from the Russians or the Americans?
Americans. In that place, Dachau was already in Bayern, but this was where the Americans covered the area. The Russians were near Stuttgart, near Lithuania and all that, East European. This is already West European. Maybe I should describe, you wanted me to describe the liberation. So
yes, please.
One day, one evening, they brought us into a place where on both sides were two mountains, nearby mountains. And they used to pick places where they can put their machine guns and the guns and guard the whole. There were thousands of people from all of the camps around. And there were also Russian war prisoners as well, somehow. But anyway, I want to describe the last day of the march. The last day we were brought into this place, when I say with the two mountains on the side, we saw the the guards as usual around, and at night we were supposed to, we fell asleep, but in the meantime, a very heavy snow started. It was very unusual at that time, the 1st of May, such a heavy snow. So in the morning we got up. Some people never got up anymore because they did not survive, but whoever got up, and all of a sudden people said, so there is no guard on the mountain, there's no guard. And all of a sudden we heard noises, and there were noises of the American tanks. So the American tanks were passing through this area. So a lot of people started to run to the road, see that the miracle. So we already understood that we are free. So the Americans waved us, and they started to throw us food. They reported that what they saw was walking skeletons. Most of the prisoners were skeletons because of the big hunger all these years and all that. So they started to work biscuits and sardines and all kinds of foods, and people would hungry for so many years started to eat, and this was very bad. A lot of people got diarrhea, and some people did not survive because of that. But anyway.
So I just I want to emphasize that point because I've heard this more than once from you, but I haven't heard this before. When the Americans liberated you, the prisoners, all the survivors who survived years in these camps and ghettos, and they were trying to help them, and they gave them food, and some people ate perhaps too much and weren't accustomed to the food, and that eventually brought to their death. That's something that not many people hear, and that saddens me. Arie, I just want to stop for a second and to say that many people are tuning in, which is moving and exciting. We have Jason from Tampa, Florida, Jesse Sappho saying, thank you for taking the time to share your story. We have Sharon sending love from South Africa. We have Joan saying, no matter how many stories I hear, I cannot conceive of the heartless cruelty. We have many people tuning in, so they're thanking you for sharing the story. I would like us to move forward in that liberation story and to tell us what happened afterwards. And I know you want to share something that you've prepared.
Yes. First of all, I wanted to show just a few pictures from the Dachau, book. One is, this was the uniform. This was, can you see that? This was the uniform that we wore in Dachau, so and so and so. The other thing is, once we went into the concentration camps, including Stuttgart and Dachau, we were no people anymore. We were numbers. Everybody had a number because of the front so being closed. The Germans understood that they have no time to put tattoos on the hands as they did in Auschwitz and other camps. So we got the numbers. I got the number. This is my Dachau number. Can I show? Hold on.
Yeah, now we can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This is my Dachau number, and right. This is Lithuanian. No. We will skip this one. And this is my Dachau number. So here we are liberated now, as we say. And now I'll go back to your question. And a lot of people got sick, and so we were sent to the hospital. But first we were taken, the first night we were taken by the American army with lorries in a place called Battles. Battles was the headquarters, and not maybe the caserns of the SS.
So just to ask, they took the Americans took you to sleep in the barracks of the SS soldiers for the first night after you were liberated.
So they brought us in. They said, we will not let you in. It's snowing outside. So they brought us in to this place, and they told us, you can go in there free. If the door is closed, broken, go ahead and use it, sleep there, and so on. So we broke in, and all of a sudden, we saw beds, normal beds, and sheets, and all that, and a kitchenette, and things like that. So vice people said, this is an historical moment. People take souvenirs of that moment. I took a souvenir, which is a fork. You see the fork? And I want you to see the fork, that on that fork, that is, can you see the sign of
Now
SS?
I can, yeah.
SS,
it's saying SS, right?
SS, yeah. Everything was marked SS. And this is how we spent the first or the second night. I want to tell you another thing is that a Jewish chaplain from the American army said he wants to make a memorial service for the deceased, and he asked everybody to go in to the place. There was a place, a place where he said we should all be there, and he's going to be it. So all of a sudden he had started with his prayer, El Malal Rachamim. A lot of people start to cry, but anyway, when he finished his El Malal Rachamim and said Kaddish on the deceased, he took us out. He took out from his bag a blue-white fawn and a Jewish fawn, a flag, and people started again to cry, and all of a sudden started to sing Hatikva, and such an Hatikva you've never heard before, and this was very emotional, very impressive, and this is the story from the liberation. From there on, they took us to another concern, to Munich. But as I said, a lot of people took sick, and also there was a typhus epidemic going around. We already started in the camp, but later on developed to be very serious. So they were taken to a SS hospital in Saint-Otilien. In Saint-Otilien, the nurses were
Saba, I just want to I want to conclude this part, because every time you're speaking about this, I'm hearing something new. And you were speaking about being liberated and sleeping in the first night in the beds of SS soldiers. And you took one souvenir that is with you up until today that you haven't revealed to us, to the family, for years and years. I just don't know why, but now you have, so I'm happy everyone is seeing this. You've sang the Tikva with the flag, and you've lifted the flag of Israel, and you're liberated. So this is a big moment for you, and there are many questions going around. I want to ask you a few in a second. I just want to let you perhaps conclude the story so we can move to questions from the audience, because they want to know more about what happened after and other issues. So go ahead.
So go ahead. Would you make it a little clear for me? What is the intent? What do you mean by what should I ask?
So I have a question that comes up a lot, and I actually wrote a very similar question. Someone called Elizabeth Greenbaum is asking, Dear Arie, how did you find the strength to believe in humanity and to survive this period. And I'm asking this all the time. How did you have the power to go through everything from the ghetto to the concentration camps, to marching the death march, and to surviving? What kept you going?
It is a very complicated and difficult question. In the beginning, nobody believed in anything. A lot of people said, I don't believe in God. And other people said, I don't believe in humanity. I remember I was a young man, but even the elderly people were so hurt but we all said one thing. Most of the people over there said, in battles in the concern came all kind of delegations to persuade everybody to go home. Even the Russians that should go back to the Soviet Union, and the other people, the delegates came. But we all decided we are not going back to Lithuania. Or they say we're not going back to Poland. We are going to Eretz Israel, to the land of Israel. And this was people, and there were a lot of people decided we are going to the land of Israel. But we didn't know that it existed. So a lot of people spoke to the American Jewish soldiers, and they were explained what the situation is. But anyway, as I told you, right now I am in the hospital called Santo Tilian. And over there, one day, we were told that soldiers from the Jewish brigade are coming to visit us. We didn't know about what is a Jewish brigade. And then we found out that there is a Jewish, a Palestine brigade from Jewish people mainly, and they're coming. So they came to us and asked us all to concentrate over there and come to listen to them. And there was a chaplain over there, again made services, Elman Arachamim, and there was a colonel called Arie Shilansky, and he said, there is an Israel, there is a Yishuv, how should I explain it in Israel? There's a Jewish people, and we'll bring you to Palestine, to Israel. He didn't mention that Israel and that the borders are closed, that the British do not allow that. But anyway, we all registered, and we all said, if they come to take us, we go. And this is the way it was. In a week or something later, a big echelon, maybe 30 or 35 floors with the Jewish, the people from the land of Israel, Palestine at that time, on the lorries, on their shoulders, they had a Star of David. On the doors of the trolleys, a Star of David, and that's it. How they brought us, and they brought us to Italy. But they did not mention that it's not so simple. So I got stuck in Italy for quite some time until I managed to come to the land of Israel.
Okay, so at least you know Italian, right? You've learned the language there.
Yeah, this is I know the Italian. I used to be an interpreter later on. I picked up the language very well.
So Saba, I can speak about this for hours, but I want to ask you a few questions that come up in the questions that we're receiving, and I want to link them to your story, if I may. So last year, you led a delegation of our whole family, more than 20 people, to Lithuania to see, for the first time for most of us, your hometown and to see your house. I mean, I'm interested to know from you, what did you feel when you visited your house with the whole family, with your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren?
I want to show you the picture where, you remember this picture?
Yes, I do.
This is a family for the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. So and the house you see in the background is our house that exists to this day. So we went to visit this place in order to show you from where actually I come and from the background of the family. What is the next question now?
So it's a personal question, Saba. As you know, I have two boys, baby twins. They're 1.5 years old. And I'm interested to know, what are your tips for us to educate them about the Holocaust and about what happened? How do you see us remembering? How do you see them remembering? What do you think I should do? What do you think our generation should do so we won't forget the story?
I have a message for my family and for all other families. The situation has changed with the establishment of the Jewish state in Israel. We had no one to turn to when disaster struck us. Now we have a strong Israel, a powerful Israel, and my message is you should see and guard it, cherish it, and appreciate it, because this is what we have. If we had, some people believe if there would have been in Israel, maybe this disaster that we went through wouldn't exist. So my message is let's all be together and Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you very much for that.
Don't forget.
Yeah.
We should not forget it, and that's it.
Thank you very much for that. I'm reading different comments here, and I want to read one from Elizabeth Deichter. She says that her father was liberated in the death march from Dachau like you were. His number was 149094. It makes me have goosebumps thinking that maybe you were together in Dachau. So I don't know if you remember him, but you're touching many lives of people right now. So that means a lot. I would like to conclude this conversation, this webinar, and I want to thank you so much for investing the time and for sharing your story today with us and with the thousands of people that are watching. You're an inspiration and you're uplifting so many people. Before we wrap, I want to tell everyone that if you love the work that Stand With Us does, you can join us, you can join our activities, and of course you can support us and donate us however you like and whatever you can at standwithus.com/donate. If you enjoyed this session and you want to book a private session for your group and you want to bring speakers and educators to your synagogues and churches and groups, you just need to go to www.standwithusconnect.com. Again, Arie, I want to, before I conclude and talk about the next webinar, I just want to thank you again for being my grandfather and for inspiring me and my family. So toda, thank you. And I would like to talk about the next webinar on Thursday. If you're interested in joining us, we have a webinar with Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus. He's the IDF international spokesperson. He will be speaking about how Israelis and Palestinians are working together to battle coronavirus. If you want our full program, you can go to our StandWithUsConnect.com website. And I'm looking forward, and we're looking forward to seeing you again. If you can't come to Israel at the moment, we'll make sure we bring Israel to you. So this is Arie, my grandfather, my Saba. I'm Tamir Oren, live from Israel for Stand With Us Connect. Shalom, and thank you, and hope to see you soon.
Thank
Bye.
you very much, my grandson, Tamir. I'm very proud of you, and Keep on doing the good work here. Thank you.